Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Aqueduct Racetrack here on Saturday. It is the 6th of July, 2024. It's the penultimate day of this very long Aqueduct meeting that's been going on basically since September here. But we're going to look at the stakes races on this program, including the Belmont Derby. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world. And also join me today for my Eclipse preview from Sandown. Also live right now, my Delaware Oaks and Cornhusker handicap preview from the races here stateside also. But it's a decent card today from Aqueduct. Some of the other races, the stakes races are a little bit light in entries, but I think you can make some money with some of the races, not all of them. But we'll be looking at races 2, 6, 8, and 9. So a lot of races, 4 races to look at. Let's get to it right now. The second race from Aqueduct, it is the Dwyer Stakes. It's a grade 3 event. Going for a $200,000 purse race for 3-year-olds here. Field of 4 horses, going 1,600 meters or a mile here in the Dwyer. Gonna take the 3-horse domestic product. 3-1 in the exacta here for me. 3-1 exacta, top selection of 3-horse domestic product. This 3-year-old colt by Practical Joke. Chad Brown trains. Flavian Prado had a very good 4th of July, gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in the Pegasus at Monmouth, mile 16th, 15th of June. Of a bit of a quick turnaround, 3 weeks from his previous race. He finished second by 6 3/4 lengths. Tuscan Sky really finally found his winning ways and took off clear. This horse, he was with him early on, dueling on the front end. He just didn't quicken up, but I thought he showed potential, staying a little bit closer to the pace. I think on this track, he wants to sit just a little bit closer. If he could get a trip to win, he could get the trip to win, and he could win. It's a horrible thing to say, but, I think if he's far over the pace, he probably will win in the spot. 2 back, he ran the Derby at Churchill, mile quarter, 4th of May. I picked him at the Derby, but he didn't do a lot of running. He finished 13th by 23 3/4 lengths that day. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly. He was wide, and he just gave up, it seemed. I just don't know, I just don't think he was up to the task that day. But he ran terrifically at Tampa prior to that, a mile 16th in the Tampa Derby, where he won by a neck, and he closed into very pedestrian fractions that day. 51 to the half, 116, 1 3/4, almost harness time, but he really closed up from mid-pack to get the job done, a little bit wide, but a very good performance from that day. And then in the Holy Bull at Goldstream with the mile 16th, he finished second by 2 lengths behind Hayes, who was running back this one today. Again, he didn't get out of the gate so clearly, swung out wide late, but he was gaining that day. If the race was mile and 8th, he probably would have won by open lengths, but he ran his heart out. Refreshing here, trading well at Saratoga since the last race. I'll give him a shot on the ticket, but to recap my selection for the second half from Aqueduct, it is the grade 3 Dwyer. Going to take the 3-horse domestic product, 3-1 exacta for me here in the Dwyer. Let's head over to the featured 6th race now from Aqueduct. The 6th race, it is the Belmont Derby Invitational. It's a grade 1 event going for per $750,000 race for 3-year-olds here. Field of 5 horses going 1,900 meters or a mile 3/16 on the Aqueduct outer turf course. 1,900 meters, a mile 3/16 outer turf course. And first things first, they are running this race at a mile 3/16 this year because they can't run a mile and a quarter at Aqueduct on the turf course, even though, if I'm not mistaken, they were able to run a mile and a quarter on the old inner track, but for some reason they can't run a mile and a quarter on this outer turf course now here at Aqueduct. So now they're going to be running it at a mile 3/16 instead of the usual mile and a quarter you see at Belmont. And also, one note about this race, you have the Kent Stakes at Delaware Park this year that's running a mile 3/8. It was running last year at a mile 3/8 also, but that's a great race with a good field size of 12 horses, and for half this purse, a quarter of this purse it seems, and you saw more horses run there than they ran here in this race, which I just found very, very weird. I think this race probably you'll see more. You probably want to win this race, the grade 1, than the Kent, but still the field size this weekend just a little bit head scratcher with some of these stakes races. With that being said, I'm going to go with the 5 horse Endlessly. I'm going to go 5-1-4-2 for me in the superfecta. 5-1-4-2 super. Top selection 5 horse Endlessly. 3-year-old colt by Oscar Performance. Michael McCarthy trains. Umberto Rispoli gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in the Derby at Churchill, mile and a quarter, 4th of May. First start on dirt. That was the big question for him. I didn't think he ran half bad. He finished 9th by 13 3/4 lengths. He got around the race course well. It looked like he was handling dirt kickback. I just thought for a dirt debut, the Derby was the wrong race. Michael McCarthy did not want to run in the Derby. They kept saying, even in after the El Camino Real Derby, the Belmont Derby is something they want to really target for him. He's here today. He's back to his preferred surface for the first time this year. A race they've been targeting all year. I think he's sitting on a very good run. I'm not a big fan of picking Southern California horses on the East Coast because I do think the Southern California turf horses, just a little bit, just a few ticks slow considered to our East Coast turf horses. But I think his horse is, is real deal and could keep up with them. Two back, he ran the Jeff Ruby Stakes in the Midwest at Turfway, mile and 8th, 23rd of March, and he won by 4 lengths that day. Hit a bit of a wide trip, but he really quickened up nicely, and he destroyed the group of horses. So beat the Preakness winner, Seas Grade that day, and West Saratoga is a decent horse. This horse just really took off clear. Very good strong run for him that day. And then up at Golden Gate, a mile and 8th in the El Camino Real Derby, winning by 1 1/4 lengths that day. Again, a little bit wide, but he flew home clear late. 70 cents a dollar, wasn't the world's toughest El Camino Real Derby we've ever had, but it was still a very good run. His only subpar race other than the Derby came last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf at Santa Anita, 1 mile 3rd November, where he finished 8th by 8 3/4 lengths that day. He was wide, and he just wasn't getting into it. I just thought, he was just facing a little bit too tough horses on the day. But won the Zuma Beach, won the Del Mar Juvenile Turf quite nicely, and broke his maiden in late July at Del Mar, going a mile very, very nicely also. Training well since the Derby, back to his preferred surface, back to a mile 3/16. I think he could really run a good race. I think the one-horse Legend of Time for William Buick and Charlie Appy could get a trip to win also. Most recently in the Pennine Ridge at Aqueduct, mile and 8th, 25th of May, he won by a head that day, and he sat back early. He didn't break so well out of the gate, but he really closed up well late. But keep in mind, if you've been following Aqueduct, I follow Aqueduct like it's, I have issues. I follow Aqueduct so closely at times. But if you look at the run-ups for all these races at mile and 8th at Aqueduct in the last year or so, the two races, the Pennine Ridge and also the Wonder Again, they were run with the longest run-ups for a mile and 8th races on the outer turf course that we've had here in New York the last year. Those races were basically mile 3/16. White Palomino should have probably won that day if they ran it at the correct run-up with the rails out. They just ran it a little bit too, they just had too much of a run-up that day, so I just want to get that off my chest. But with the added ground, Legend of Time really, got the race, he shouldn't have won, but he got the job done. But, it was still a very good run. Two back in the American Turf at Churchill, mile 16th, 4th May. First start stateside. He finished 5th by 5 lengths that day, and he just stalked that day. He kind of yielded late. Tricari, who's running back this one, really freaked that day, 47-1. Came back to run a real good race at Penn National after that. But this horse, just probably need the race there off the bench. And then the Jumeirah Classic at Maidan over the mile and the 8th, winning by 4 3/4 lengths that day from a tracking trip. He basically won in a trot, a very good race. He won the trial before that the Guineas before that quite easily, and the trial for the Guineas easily before that also. He likes the fast ground that he's going to see. Training quite well at Saratoga on the turf and the dirt. I'm going to give a shot at 5-2. I think the 4 Shikari is your third likely winner. I'm going to use this horse in the pick 6 that begins with this race. Great Motion trains. John Velasquez comes back from his European vacation to ride. I can't remember now if he had any mounts on Friday for Johnny, but if I'm not mistaken, this is his first start stateside since Saratoga, it seemed. But most recently for this one, Penn National in the Grade 3 Penn Mile, he finished 3rd by a neck that day. If he didn't have a wide trip, he probably would have won, but he left out of the gate. He stalked, he got the lead. First World War caught him in the lane in that all-out finish, but he ran his heart out that day. Prior to the American Turf, from the inside, he saw a good trip. He went a little bit wide late, but he got there going away. Umberto Rispoli, great ride. 47-1. Should have been 47-1 in that big race, but, he flew home clear there. And then the Rushway Turfway, the mile 16th on Topeka, winning by a neck from a tracking trip on the front, and he really took off clear. If he can keep a straight course, he can win. Another horse, I think, goes up a lot with some added ground. Let's give him a shot here at 7-2 in a very good Belmont Derby. Like I said, it's a 5-horse field, but I think you go a few ways with this one. But to recount my selection for the 6 from Belmont at the Big A, it is the Belmont Derby. Going to take the 5-horse Endless League. Give kudos to the 1-horse Legend of Time and the 1-horse Legend of Time and the 4-horse Tricari. 5-1-4-2 Super, 5-1-4 in the multi-race. The 8th race now from Aqueduct. It is the John A. Nerud Stakes. It's a Grade 2 event going for a $200,000 purse race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 5 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs of the John Nerud. I'm going to go with the 1-horse Averso Mischievous as the top selection. 1-5-3-2 for me in the superfecta. 1-5-3-2 super. Top selection of 1-horse Averso Mischievous. This 4-year-old colt by Into the Mischief. Brad Cox trains. Highly Gaffleon picks up the mount. The horse is most recent out and came 31st of May at Churchill. Mile and optional 100 claimer, and the horse won by 1/4 lengths that day. He stalked, he got the lead, and he walked home clear. Wasn't the world's strongest number that came back, but it was first off the bench. He did well, stepping up in class here, second off the bench, coming to New York again, where he ran well on debut. I'm going to give him a shot to improve off that debut run. His most recent race, though, in New York wasn't up to par. It was a very, weird track, very speed favoring Cigar Mile handicap, 1 mile in the mud, 2nd of December. He finished 11th by 26 lengths, and that's a lukewarm, just under 2-1 favorite. He just wasn't comfortable, didn't get out of the gate so clearly, had to steady a few times behind the backstretch, and, always the gold ran terrifically. Senior Biscuit 1-2 starts after that in Saudi, really took off clear. This horse just wasn't getting into it. It just wasn't his day to win. Prior to that, here at Aqueduct in the 49er, he won by a half a length that day, and from a tracking trip, he really took off clear, a little bit wide, but he got the job. The 98 Buyer, that was a game performance there. And then prior to that, in the Harrods Creek over the 7 here on the 23rd of September, winning by 3 3/4 lengths that day, and not the best beginnings, where he got a little bumpiness, but again, he flew home clear late. His race over Saratoga weren't bad at all last summer. Back up in class, his Buyer might have came back a little slow last time out, but it was first off the bench. I'll give him a break off of that one. I'm going to give it a shot here on the ticket. I think the 5 horse Mulligan for Rudolph Brissett and Flavien Prat can win also. Most recently over the 7 at Churchill and Optional 80. The horse won by 3 1/4 lengths that day, and he didn't get out of the gate so clearly. It was a little bit wide, but he got the job done late. A good performance that day. Prior to that, he broke on top at Keeling, going 3/4 in a allowance race for 100,000. First start in about 9 months. He wanted to get out of the gate, and he did just that, and he flew home on the front end, won by 5 3/4 lengths, 98 Bauer. That was a freakish performance. His final start last year in that allowance race at Ella's, going 3/4. He finished 4th by 4 1/4 lengths that day, where he didn't get out of the gate so clearly, which cost him. But if you take out that race, he's run really quite nicely, and he's really improved since beginning his career. Training well at Keelan, at 2-1, getting Flavien up, who's having a very good week so far at Aqueduct. Let's give him a shot on the ticket. But to recount my selection for the 8th from Aqueduct, now it's grade 2 John A. Nerud. Going to take the 1 horse Aversa Mischievous. Give kudos to the 5 horse Mulligan. 1-5-3-2 Super. 1-5 in the multi-race. The 9th race now from Aqueduct. It is the Belmont Oaks Invitational. It's a grade 1 event going for a $500,000 purse. Race for 3-year-old fillies. Field of 9 horses going 1,900 meters, or mile 3/16 here on the outer turf course. Rails are down, by the way, on the outer for Saturday and Sunday's card. Thursday and Friday, they're up at 36 feet, which is the widest they can be on the outer turf course. So back down to the 0 setting for the final 2 days in the meeting, which I quite like. But my top selection here in the Belmont Oaks, I'm going to take the 3 horse Fun with Flags. 3-7-2-8 for me in the superfecta. 3-7-2-8 super. Top selection, 3 horse Fun with Flags. Is 3-0 for the Bizophony. Jerome Rainier trains. Manny Franco gets the mount, who's having a very good year and a very good Belmont Aqueduct spring meeting. Gets on this one. Most recently, this horse ran in French Oaks trial or prep race, the Group 3 Pre-Cleopatra St. Cloud, 1.25 miles on the 19th of April, and he finished second by 2.5 lengths that day, and he sat back early. He moved a little bit late, half day, just had the jump on this horse, but the ground was very demanding. I think coming here to faster ground, being forwardly paced or seeing a stronger pace in front, I think this horse could really get a trip to win. Ran terrifically on very heavy ground, though, at St. Cloud, 7th of March, 1.25 miles in the listed pre-Rose de Mai. Went in by a length that day from a tracking trip, really, had to dig in to get the job done, but she got the job done going away. A very good performance there. And then conditions race at Consumers on Nice, 15th January, 7.5 furlongs there, near the mile trip. Went by 1.25 lengths that day, and basically from, again, a tracking trip, she really took off clear from a bit of a wide trip also, but it was still a good run. Prior to that, Marseille over the mile in the 8th in the main race in the debut in late October, winning by 1.5 lengths. Marseille is I would say it's very similar to our American tracks. It's a mile circumference track, and you have a bit of a quick run to that first turn, but this horse, really took quite nicely down around those 2 turns there. Like I said, if you watch the replays, you'll notice Marseille. St. Cloud's a very European track. Consumer is very big European track. Marseille looks kind of like Aqueduct on the outer turf course, and she got around those tight bends right, and really took off clear. Coming here off of those decent runs, definitely been improving. Could be forwardly paced on fast ground. This horse could definitely win. Give her a shot on the ticket. I think the 7 horse, she feels pretty for Cherie DeVoe, and John Velasquez could win also. Most recently off the bench of Pimlico, a mile on the hilltop. She won by 5.25 lengths that day. Was a little bit wide, but really freaked home that day. A very good going away victory. 3. Prior to that, in the Breeders' Cup, she ran okay, but she had a wide poster, which probably cost her the victor. That came at Santino, 1 mile, 3rd November in the Breeders' Cup. She finished 3rd by a half length. She had a wide trip, and she just couldn't get there. Hard to justify. Really freaked home that day, but she ran terrifically in the EP Taylor lawn at Woodbine, a mile in Talma Stakes, won by 4 1/4 lengths from a tracking trip after not the best beginnings and was a little bit wide, but she flew home clear late. Another horse that's definitely improved a lot. She improved to the 3-year-old campaign debut. Training well, Keelan. She goes up a lot with trip. 2-1. I like her a lot in this one. And even the 2 horse here, dynamic pricing for Flavian and Chad Brown. Most recently, the Edgewood Derby weekend at Churchill on very demanding ground. She won by a half a length that day. She was stupidly wide, but she edged it out to the wire. Very good performance, game performance that day. On a turf course, she probably wasn't handling. Prior to that in the Florida Oaks, I thought she just had a very, very wide trip, which cost her. She finished 7 by 7 3/4 lengths. Wide poster, a wide trip. She just wasn't into it there. And then the Swedish Chance at Goldstream with the mile 16. She finished 3rd by a half a length that day. Again, a little bit wide, but she was gaining that day. She'll probably be forwardly paced here today. I think with a dry turf course compared to her last turf course that was quite spongy. I think she could get a trip to win. Let's use her on the ticket. But like I said earlier, these turf races a lot of these stakes races might have small fields, but I think you can go a few ways in some of these races like this one. So let's do it. To recap my selections now for the 9th round, the Aqueduct, it is the Belmont Oaks. Going to take the 3 horse, Fun with Flags. Give kudos to the 7 horse, She Feels Pretty, and the 2 horse, Dynamic Pricing. 3728 Super, 372 in the multi-race. So good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5. Good luck, everybody.